Ooh, ah. Ooh, ah. Well, good afternoon up there in a very rainy Scotland, John. How are you?
Damp.
Damp?
It's very, very wet. It's been raining non-stop since the early hours of the morning.
Yeah, and we can hear it. And believe me, John has had to move over to a lapel mic this afternoon so that we can mitigate the strength of the rain. Because if he uses either the boom mic or the condenser mic, it's impossible. You can't hear it. It's insane. Yeah. But anyway, how are you, John?
Yeah, I'm all right, Ben. I'm all right.
Good. That's what I like to hear. And what's going on over in China then? We got this article here from the Insider paper, didn't we?
Yeah. Well, see, the problem with China is one never knows what's really going on. Is it real? Is it fake? Is it propaganda? Is it set up? Is it, I mean, Xi isn't there, is he? He's in Bali.
Yeah.
Along with the rest of the G20, apart from
Putin!
Who didn't.
That was very loud. That clipped out the desktop audio because of the way I've had to mitigate things.
Oh, I'll turn it down slightly.
Yeah.
Hey, okay. Anyway, so he's not there. But Lavrov is, and there was a whole story about him as well that is a real story or not. When we're not sure because that he arrives in Bali and apparently goes straight to hospital. But Russia said no, that never happened. He's back at the concert.
Yeah, he is sitting on the balcony doing his work, supping up the Bali sun. I mean, come on, the G20 they're just trolling us, aren't they, with these lavish conferences in the middle of these beautiful locations in the sun, 7-star probably, Michelin star food, all thrown in and included, whilst you can't pay for your heating and you starve. But going back to China, they are apparently revolting over the Koof lockdowns.
Well, I've long said the Chinese are revolting. Oh, no, sorry. I didn't mean that. The Chinese are lovely people. But yeah, no, I know what you mean. Don't worry about it, Ben. It's just a joke. It was a joke.
I don't worry anymore. I expect it. I expect it from you. I really, really do. But if it's true, and the footage that's coming out from Insider Paper on Twitter is true, that people have had enough, I'm not shocked or surprised, because they've been playing this game, these swings and roundabouts, these lockdowns, for years now, and people can only take so much. People can only take so much control, can only take so much oppression before they finally snap. And it's, as Mark Changizi said, one person at a time, and I think we're seeing a lot of one person at a timing going on over there. That's the only thing I can really...
It's possible, but these countries are... What worries me is what happens next, because you know what they're like, they slap them down really quickly. Yeah,
no, you're absolutely right. Look at Tiananmen Square. Is Iran on the list?
It is on the list. Yeah.
So we will go there a bit later.
How can it not be?
Well, yeah, we'll go there a bit later, but you're right. These authoritarian, autocratic regimes just slap down and oppress populations, and we're supposed to just sit back and watch. It sounds to me like the rain's really stopped where you are.
It's cut back. It's not stopped.
We can't hear it at all now. It's fantastic. It is fantastic. Anyway,
if
John...
I turned on the other mic, I'm sure you'd hear it. Hold on.
Don't do it. All right.
You hear it?
No.
Oh.
No, we do not. But anyway, John, to our lovely, wonderful viewers on YouTube, which have already breached 10, and our viewers on Twitch, and our viewers on Rumble... First of all, please leave a like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff if you're not already. And secondly, introduce the goddamn show, sir.
I'd like to thank one and all for attending this episode 160 of Chasing Dissent Live with me, John, and with Ben in his Santa hat. Episode 160. Oh, sorry. And a new intro.
I'm in the mood. I'm in the mood, John.
You sure are, mate. You sure are.
Oh, I'm in the mood.
Did that get you going? Did you like that one?
Oh, it got me pumping. Look, I've got me hat. I've got me bat. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
Oh, John, what's going on in the world?
Where to start? Well, I tell you what, let's start easy. Let's start with Kate. And of course, let's start with the front page of the Daily Mirror, which is a couple of things, right? So we have allegedly Kate on the front page of the Daily Mirror at the Remembrance Sunday stuff, whatever they do there. And it looks like somebody forgot to give her an eye on that morning.
Well, I was going to say, she looks very, very aged in that. Aged. We don't want to be ageist here, but she does not look young.
She looks very aged in that photograph. That's not a very good photo. Not very flattering at all.
Well, I would actually say, in my personal opinion, just looking at that, it's been manipulated, right? In my personal opinion.
Something's
Something's just not right about it.
It's not right.
It's not right.
It's not right.
But, you know, if that is a true, genuine, untouched photograph of her, oh, time is not being good, is it?
No, it hasn't. So, and apparently, as the last chance to save our NHS, apparently, which it has been every year for the last 20 years.
It has, yeah. How many last chances is our NHS going to get? So Adam says in our chat, they analysed it and it has apparently been edited.
Yeah, I think it has, yeah. I think it has been edited. I don't think that's right. I don't know what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
But it's not good.
Oh, thank you, Trudy. She says, great intro, although a tad violent. Loving the emo top, Ben. Ben would have loved it. There we go. Cheer up, emo kid.
Kill.
I mean, you can really change emo kid to just far leftist now, couldn't you? And the picture would still be relevant. I'm just...
it would.
It's like they morphed into... They went from the sad, lonely type in the corner to social justice activists.
Social justice activist.
Social justice, baby!
Right. Anyway,
yeah. So it's always going to be our last chance to save the NHS every year. So
yep.
It's just hyperbole at this point, just like climate catastrophes. Anyhow, let's move on to Gareth Icke and James Melville, and a little bit of a Twitter storm you watched unfold today.
And many others who've picked up on this. So this woman, this doctor woman, she basically quoted the NHS website.
Yeah.
Right. And these guys have all jumped on this bandwagon, and they're all fucking wrong. And I know I'm not right very often, but they're completely wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
Because what they're saying is, she said, if you're a man or woman whose periods have stopped, and that's not how it reads.
No, it's not. It's not how it reads.
It's there on. I ran through this with you. I've ran through it with other people to see if my thinking is flawed, and it's not. These people are they're either deliberately taking this out of context, right?
Yep.
To make something of it that isn't there.
Yeah.
Or they are stupid.
And
either way.
Let's just say I have absolutely no qualms in criticising the trans rights activists. I mean, look what they did yesterday in New York, for God's sake. Absolutely shameful.
Yeah.
Shameful.
But this isn't about this. This is all about causes of anemia, right?
But this is
lack of iron in your blood.
And
if you go on.
I was going to say, let's read it verbatim from the NHS.
Let's read it.
So it says causes
and this
of... Carry on.
Right, causes of iron deficiency, anemia. Yeah. In pregnancy, iron deficiency is most often caused by a lack of iron in your diet. Okay, in pregnancy, no mention of who's pregnant, man or woman, just in pregnancy, because we know that women get pregnant, right?
Yes.
Heavy periods and pregnancy are very common causes of iron deficiency anemia. Heavy periods can be treated with medicine. Okay, straightforward so far.
Yeah.
Right. Then, for men and for women whose periods have stopped.
Yeah.
Right?
And that foreword is very important here.
Bleeding in the stomach and intestines is the most common cause of iron deficiency anemia. Right? So, for men and for women. That's the critical part, right?
The four is the critical part. So... Yeah. If that 4 wasn't there, it would read for men and women whose periods have stopped. It doesn't. It says for men and for women whose periods have stopped. And this bottom paragraph is actually about a completely different type of iron deficiency anemia. The first two...
it's about gastrointestinal bleeding. Yeah.
Yes, it is. And you came to me and you said, am I crazy, essentially? Am I reading this wrong? And I read it, I take it exactly as you take it. It does not say for men whose periods have stopped. It doesn't. It says for men and for women whose periods have stopped, as in maybe people who have gone through the menopause or things like that. Bleeding in the stomach and intestines is the most common cause of iron deficiency anemia. This can be caused by ibuprofen and the like, and believe me, I can tell you, anti-inflammatories have wrecked my stomach. I know what that's like. I'm a man, right?
And mine. Yep.
But this does not say what you're correct. It does not say for men whose periods have stopped, and I challenge anyone to justify saying it does, really, because
Yeah, but these people have their agenda, and see, this is the part that gets me when people go on about, oh, you're either on our side or you're not. Well, no, I'm not on anyone's side
No.
if you're speaking something that's factually incorrect. And it doesn't matter who it comes from. It doesn't matter if it comes from the NHS or even, dare I say it, even if it came from Rishi Sunak's mouth himself.
Yeah.
He could still on occasion be factually correct. And
Exactly.
at that point, you have to go, that's right. You can't just say that's wrong just because you don't like the guy. I mean, I hate the guy, but you can't say everything he says is wrong. You've got to go by the facts if you want to report the facts. And James Melville knows better than that. Yeah. And yet he's just jumped on a bandwagon. Gareth Icke should certainly know much better than that. But all he's done is jumped on a bandwagon. You cannot report the news if all you do is read headlines.
Well, you're absolutely right, but still, I'm assuming they've all read that paragraph, and I read it exactly as you read it. And in fact, I can speak to experience as often I can with NHS things, right? I know that this is a fact. I've been through it myself, and I am, at last check, a man, right? I'm a father. Yeah.
I've got the same problem. I can't. I mean, my stomach is wrecked as well. I can't take ibuprofen or anything like that because I had a dose of it 35 years ago because I had a dislocated jaw. And it ruined my stomach.
They put me
All I need to do is look at it the wrong way.
So they put me on naproxen, which is a stronger anti-inflammatory, for 10 years without giving me mitigating medication to protect my stomach. Yeah. And then when I went to them with problems, they just went, whoops.
Yeah, and of course the mitigating medication, which is usually omeprazole, has loads of problems of its own.
Oh, yeah. My mitigating medication that I'm on forever now is lansoprazole, and I'm on it forever just to keep my stomach at bay, and I don't take the anti-inflammatory, but I was supposed to, according to them, be taking it alongside it the entire time. They just forgot to prescribe it to me. It's just a whoops.
Yeah, it's handy.
Whoops. But
so and what's her name? Sophie Corcoran's on the same boat as well now. She jumped on that bandwagon as well, and it's like, for God's sake, people, read what you're meant to be talking about.
I agree.
Just start rattling your gums.
No, I agree. I think people really, really do need to. It's almost as if, and we were talking about this earlier before the show started. We were talking about it's groupthink, isn't it? And unfortunately, lots of people seem to subscribe to it. And even when you talk about these groups of people, so you far leftists, wokies, whatever you want to call them, they're massively into groupthink. They all think the same. If you don't think even one thing the same as them, you're evil. You must be ostracized. You must be ousted, destroyed, whatever. But I'm starting to see it on the other side as well. The side that claims to be for freedom, but if you question some of the things they say, you are instantly evil. Yeah. Now, we are totally for freedom, and by that I mean you can listen to us, you can believe us, you can take on board the things we say, or you can say these guys are fucking morons, I don't want to listen to them. And many people will say that, right? But at the end of the day, we're trying to inform and entertain, and we take each individual thing as it comes, and we look at it, and we come to our own conclusion on that thing. And it's not going to be the same conclusion as a group. It's never going to be the same conclusion. Fuck's sake, excuse my language, but me and John rarely fully agree on anything.
Yeah, I know. And I mean, I was following, and they were following me, some person on Twitter who we have 99% of thought alike. We're on the same page for almost everything, and yet I point out that this isn't necessarily what we said, and I'm blocked like that.
It's like, insane.
That's insanity, because we're supposed to be adults. Yeah, but we're supposed to be adults. How can you have a sensible conversation with someone if you can't have a conversation?
Well, yeah.
Because why would you block someone just for saying, well, I actually don't agree with that. I think this is what we said. And that's basically all that was done. That's all that was said. We didn't even get to name calling or anything like that, because I try not to do that. I don't see any point. But I just said, well, I don't think so. I think this is what's said. And then they came back with a riposte, and I thought, right, well, I'm not going to label a point anymore because I've made my point and that's it. And boom, next thing I know, I'm blocked.
But the point
I goes to refer to the tweet for somebody else, for Melville, in fact. I was going to send him a copy of it, and it's gone. And I'm like, why can't I see any of it? And then, she's blocked me.
But the point is, and the point remains, and the point stands, that this particular circumstance, especially as far as I read it, they are wrong, is not the hill to die on. It's not the hill to die on. It really isn't.
It's not.
And people can have a go at us for saying that if they like. People can have a go at us and call us wrong, but I read it as for men and for women whose periods have stopped.
Yep, exactly.
Not for men and women whose periods have stopped. That extra 4 is quite important in this discussion, in this debate.
Yeah.
And like I said, that doesn't mean that I am below or I am above criticizing trans rights activists, because Christ, like I say, what they did in New York City yesterday to the Let Women Speak conference was disgusting.
Yeah.
And I'm quite happy to call that out. If you don't agree with what somebody says, counter it with facts, reason, and logic. Do not turn up en masse, violently attack the people there, violently attack the police, and shut down their point. Because all that tells me is you don't have a point, you're wrong, and you're scared of what other people might say.
Yep.
Do we move on?
Right. Yes, let's move on. And the thing is, we've got the same thing happening again.
Yeah.
Right? On a different topic.
Mm.
Okay, because you read that, and what's the first thing you think?
Well, it says Santino Blanco, the 4-year-old boy who had been the face of Argentina's national treatment campaign, has #died suddenly. And Mark Devlin here, DJ Mark Devlin, tweeting, how much longer, how many more? And what is the crux of this story then, John?
Right, well, the story is, yes, this guy, this unfortunate child, was the face of Argentina's national MMR plus vaccination campaign.
Right.
Okay. There's nothing about any other kinds of treatments.
Right.
Right. He got ill. He went to hospital. They misdiagnosed him. They sent him home. He remained ill. They went back to hospital. He got misdiagnosed again. So it was a fault of the hospital system. He died from complications through pneumonia, right? But they'd misdiagnosed him with a variety of different things.
Oh dear.
So he died because of medical malpractice, possibly, right? And certainly the parents are suing the doctors involved in it.
I would as well.
Because they kept sending him home, right?
I would do exactly the same.
There's no suggestion anywhere that this has anything to do with any kind of vaccination. So this is what's wrong, because you cannot take a headline and then just put "died suddenly" on it and expect that to be true.
And it doesn't sound to me like a sudden death in the way that you're explaining. He didn't die suddenly.
It took him about 3 or 4 days because he was back and forward to hospital, in and out, because he kept sending them home.
Yeah.
It wasn't a sudden death. I mean, the guy was really ill and they didn't diagnose and treat him appropriately. That's why he died.
Yeah, and it's under a verified account, and obviously probably bought the verification, just like my wife and others have. But still, it's died suddenly. And once again, you have to look at these things critically. You have to look at these things on a case-by-case basis. And I'm not just talking about people who have or haven't died. And once again, we're not going to say that there aren't many #died suddenlies, because there clearly are, right? But when you don't look into something and you share it, and then people who have influence, like DJ Mark Devlin, he has influence. He doesn't have a massive following, but he has influence. Yeah. And they share it and they say, how much longer, how many more? That is sowing a narrative that on the face of it, on the surface, does not appear to be true. And you know, people will have a go at us and call us this, that, and the other. They don't actually listen to the words we say, do they? Right?
No, they don't, because they just jump on the first thing. They don't listen to the explanation, and again, all they're doing is working on headlines, and you can't work on headlines because most headlines are designed to hook you and bring you in so as you read the story. And unfortunately, people appear to have developed the attention span of less than a goldfish, and they don't want to read the story
Well, that's
anymore.
what TikTok's about, right?
They want all their information in the headline, and you can't get that depth of information in the headline when you're talking about things like this, because you need to spend time to understand and to look at it and to delve into it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and that's why we spend so much time making sure that in our minds what we are saying is correct, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we try and confirm things from multiple sources and stuff like that, and as in this situation, you have delved much deeper and you have found what appears to be the case. I mean, we've got Trudy in our chat that says died suddenly also applies to suicide.
Well, yeah, it does.
It does indeed. And there are so many people that are victims of this, that, and the other that will be categorized as hashtag died suddenly. And there are people who will have died because of hashtag died suddenly. But they need to be, each one, looked at for its merits, what happened, why it happened, how it happened, and if something else may or may not have been responsible. Because, and I'm talking directly to the people who do things like this and share things like this, if you keep doing this, you are going to be your core argument, which is good, by the way. Your core argument, which is right, by the way, is going to be completely discredited.
See, this is the problem, because and if you remember back to the John Bow stuff and all that, we didn't say there was anything wrong with what John Bow was saying.
We didn't.
What we said was that there appeared to be something wrong with the way that he was going about it.
In our view.
In our view, and the way that he was allegedly raising money for a charity, which to this day still does not exist as a charity. So that's the problem.
It doesn't appear to, no.
We can't find a charity that he's raising money for, and that is actually illegal.
And
you
believe
can't raise
me,
money for a charity that doesn't exist.
Believe me when I say I want this investigation just as much as anybody else, right? Just as much as any of these people. I want this investigation. Yeah. I have spoken to, platformed, personally, people who have been horrifically injured. You know this. People know this. People that have been with us been with me since before I had to become the guest on John's channel know what I was doing, or who I was speaking to, and what we were speaking about. But if you keep doing things like this, if you keep sharing things like this and getting it quite verifiably wrong, people are going to go, nope, sorry, they're calling it everything, discredit them, laugh them out of the room. Just be more tactful. Please, because...
Well, be right. That's what you need to be.
I mean, let's talk...
don't share stuff that you don't know if it's right or not. If it's not right, don't share it.
Well, exactly.
Use your common sense, and not everything. I mean, remember, 1,600 people die every day on average
in the UK.
In the UK, right? 1,600 people.
Mm-hmm.
So those people die for a variety of reasons. Not everyone dies because of know what. So you have to think, well, people die anyway. People do drop dead when they're running marathons. People do drop dead when they're playing football. But the quantities we've seen
are very, very concerning.
Yeah, they ask for investigation. That's what I would say.
And we should be asking for investigation, but we need to be sure. Now, we're staying on the John Bow stuff for a minute. The documentary he did with Oracle Films was really good. Was really sound.
Yeah, of course it
was really well sourced. Was really well evidenced. Now, going down that sort of road, that is where you want to go. Okay? But we can't just say anyone that's died suddenly died because of this thing. Because if we keep doing that, that's it. It's over. Because you're going to get stories like this where clearly that wasn't the case. and people are going to go, well, they're lying. And you don't want that. You don't want that.
You know what? For every 10 or 20 of people that die suddenly, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you get one that you can verify died for another reason, it destroys your argument for those other 10 or 20.
You're exactly right.
Destroys it.
You're exactly right. I mean, we go back to that saying that the lie makes it halfway around the world before the truth can get out of bed in the morning, right? And that's the problem here, especially with the power of social media. And the power of social media and people with influence on social media, like Mark Devlin, sharing things that seem to be verifiably false. It's a problem. It's, all I'm saying to these people is your core argument is absolutely correct, but you need to be more tactful. You need to be careful, because if you want to get the investigations that you're asking for, and believe me, we all want them too.
We do.
You need to be sure.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. And I know that's a bit of an off-tangent rant there, and people might hate us for what we're saying, but you know what? I don't care, because I do actually want to see this investigation. I have spoken to people who have been heavily and horribly affected, and if you keep doing things like this, it won't happen, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, they'll just shut it down. They'll just brand everyone a conspiracy theorist, and you know what happens? It just gets... The argument gets shut down and it gets swept under the carpet, and then nobody knows. And we find out 75 years down the line, when we're all dead, that it wasn't a conspiracy and everything's been proven right, But hey, you don't know what's going to happen.
No, and I mean, people like Graham Botley then become right.
Yeah,
and that's well, they do, because they can then point out and say, look, these people have lied about this. These people have lied about that.
But forget that.
He's a major.
He's not getting the airtime as far as I'm concerned.
Okay,
I don't know who he is.
That's fair enough.
No importance to me. Right, moving on.
Yes, let's move on to a tweet here from Mahia Tusi. But so far, I can't confirm this to be the case, because obviously it's Iran and you don't know what happens there, just like China. It's a theocratic regime. It's an oppressive regime. There have been major protests over the past, 6 months or so, that have barely been televised, of people wanting out, wanting their freedom. Because
and we did speak to Mark about this, because Mark has his wife's Iranian and he's of Iranian descent, I believe.
Yeah, Mark Changizi.
Yeah, and I mean, he did say that he spoke to people there, and generally, it's like everything. If you were here and just lived your life and didn't bother going to protests, you wouldn't know anything that happened, and that's 99% of the people in this country. They don't know what's going on, because remember, BBC never told you what was going on. Sky News never told you what was going on.
They just gave you a rolling dose and daily dose of fear. That's all they ever did to you.
All you did was get your propaganda from them, and therefore it'll be the same. It's the same in any country. The 99 or 95% of the people don't have a clue what's going on, and unfortunately, that's what happens. So you don't know how accurate this is or not.
But
now, we do know that there were massive protests, and there was a big upswelling among young women who were protesting. And now it seems that, and this has come from more than one source, it's not just come from Meyer, it's come from multiple sources. So
it has.
You have to think there is something behind it, but you don't know the actual detail. But if these people are genuinely going to execute 15,000 women, right,
and sexually violate them,
yeah, because then they don't get to go to heaven, then there's something really, really wrong with that regime. And to be fair, this is one occasion where I would say that the world needs to take some kind of action on these people, because this is not fair on citizens.
No, you're
regardless of which country they're in, this is not the fair way to treat people. And generally, I'm not a great fan of interfering in other people's affairs.
No, I agree.
Right? But this is going beyond the pale.
Yeah, if it's true.
If it's true.
Okay, because we do have to heavily caveat that. But if true, this
is
is
unacceptable.
this is a war crime as far as I'm concerned.
Well, okay, but if they're not at war, it's not a war crime.
Well, it's akin to a war crime, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous, and the problem is you're now dealing with a religious aspect as well, which makes it even more complicated, and it makes it worse. And
well, this is it because
to deal with.
Because okay, listen,
because people are frightened to speak up.
Yeah, people are frightened to speak up, and I have to be very careful with how I say this. But if the regime, which is theocratically led, which is religiously read, right? If it is in that doctrine that's leading this country, that female prisoners who are pure, shall we say, must be violated before execution to prevent them from entering heaven, and that is how they're ruling their country, that must be spoken out against. Yeah, that must be spoken out against, because that is horrifying.
Rolling
true.
On to the next slide, please.
Right, okay, give me a sec.
So Adam came back about, he thought it was like 220 people or something, but I think maybe he's picked it up wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe this is where he got his figures from, but this 227 lawmakers are urging the judiciary to sentence the detained protesters to death.
Why? Because they're scared of losing their power.
Yeah, that's all it's about. This is another Chinese type phenomenon where you can't be seen to let people get the better of the government, and you've really got to hammer them and set an example of them. And this thing happens in this country too. Because remember the guy that got sent to jail for serving mince pies, who didn't get sent to jail for serving mince pies, right? But again, inappropriately reported by people who think they're on the side of freedom, because how come he gets sent to jail for serving mince pies and Boris Johnson didn't get sent to jail for eating mince pies?
Well, yeah.
But Boris Johnson ate a mince pie. Big deal. Did he then try and pervert the course of justice? Did he then go and try and, did he approach companies and try and get the CCTV footage taken away and destroyed? So then you have, and did he, so you have to balance up who did what.
Well, exactly.
Now, I'm still not saying it's right that a 72-year-old man should end up in jail for effectively serving mince pies.
No,
right?
No, it's not.
But he didn't help himself by doing what he then did. So he obviously thought about it and then thought, well, I've actually done, rather than stand around and go, yeah, okay, I did it, right? But I can't see the problem with serving mince pies with a glass of wine, right? To people, I don't see how that would cause any issues. And then the judge would turn around and go, well, you've broken the letter of the law, but we'll fine you 50 quid or something like that.
Well, exactly.
But no, he goes and tries to cover it up, and it's always the same when you try and hide something. It always makes it worse. When you were a kid and you broke something and then never said, and then it was later found out you did it, you got hiding. Well, you used to, right? But if you turned around and go, I broke that, you'd get away with it, You're better putting your hands up there and then.
Well, exactly. Right, let's move on, because yesterday we were praising Sophie Corcoran here for saying something correct.
She's just doubled down on being an idiot today, hasn't she?
I mean, the points here she has made are absolutely correct. Everything here is absolutely true. However, none of it all pales in comparison to what Matt Hancock has done. So she says
exactly.
She says, let's be real. Boy George got arrested for kidnapping. What he actually got arrested for, I believe, was imprisoning a guy, chaining him to his radiator, beating him, and sexually assaulting him. Mm-hmm. Sean Walsh cheated on his wife. Yes, he did. On Strictly.
Well, it was his partner, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Sue Cleaver got arrested for drink driving. Okay, that's really, really something, isn't it? Chris Moyles was involved in a £1 million tax avoidance scheme.
That's not a crime.
No, perfectly legal and something we endorse.
And should not be on that list, because there's nothing wrong with doing that. No. As we've said before, it's your duty to avoid tax, especially if you run a company and you're a company director. So
Yeah.
tax avoidance, 100% legal. Tax evasion, 100% illegal. I would urge anyone to do as much tax avoidance as they possibly can.
Within the letter of the law, absolutely. Right?
Yep, definitely.
Ant nearly killed a family drink driving. Yes, that's kind of true. Yeah, but I don't understand why he does keep getting it allowed back on TV, because he keeps jumping off the wagon and doing something stupid while he's drunk. But, you know, he's that cheeky chappy and everybody forgives him, whatever.
Yeah,
Matt isn't the only questionable one. Okay, so did Boy George order that children die alone in hospital? No.
No.
Did Sean Walsh order that old people had to be locked up like effective prisoners in care homes, and those with dementia and things like that deteriorate to death because of it?
No, he did not.
Did Sue Cleaver stop you from being able to go to the funeral of a loved one?
No, she did not.
Did Chris Moyles stop you from being allowed to go and hug your mum?
No, he did not.
I could go. Right, I'll do.
We get the message. We know what you're coming from.
Yeah.
You know, and we can't effectively say what we want to say.
No.
But, you know, if anyone, it's a question of degree here.
Yeah.
And Matt Hancock is by far and large way ahead by several degrees than anything anyone else has done on that list.
And I believe that segment creates a YouTube short for later. but the point is, you're absolutely right. What Matt Hancock did, what Matt Hancock signed into law, what Matt Hancock ordered for you is far worse for so many people. Far worse. And because of what he did, there is a cancer time bomb in this country. People walking around, tens of thousands probably, without any diagnosis, knowing they have cancer, who are probably going to #die suddenly, right? There are people with heart conditions, don't know they have heart conditions. People who were never effectively treated for things like strokes. People who weren't given their bloody chemo while they had a diagnosis of cancer. This was all Matt Hancock. His name is on the legislation. I'm sorry, but what he did to this country is far worse than what any of those people have done. Far worse. Chrissy says in the chat here, the Matt Hancock fan club leader found my TikTok yesterday. Much fun. Let's just say the leader of the Matt Hancock fan club got a video reply. Him gloating in the jungle about not being fined turned my stomach. Do you know what also turned my stomach? So I've been watching this bloody I'm a Celebrity so that I can tell you what's going on and how they're portraying him. And they had Chris Moyles in their little confessional last night going, you know, there's two Matt Hancocks. He goes, there's that one Matt Hancock that's Matt Hancock and nobody likes. And then there's Matt, our mate in the jungle that gets all our food.
And what did we talk about yesterday?
Exactly.
Matt Hancock is a psychopath.
Yeah.
Matt Hancock will come across as your best friend.
Yes.
Everything Matt Hancock does is an act because he has no empathy and no feeling for you or whoever that was, Chris Moyles or whatever that was talking about. Mm-hmm. He has no feelings whatsoever because he is a psychopath. And it's as simple as that. Don't feel sorry for this guy. Don't let this guy off the hook. That's exactly what he's trying to do just now. And it's working. He's actually working.
He should be the figurehead of this #no amnesty, right?
Yeah, he should.
He should be the figure. And what he's doing is I'm not going to lie, right? You have to give credit where credit's due, because what he's doing is surprisingly intelligent, because he knows.
Because he's a psychopath.
Yeah.
Psychopaths are intelligent.
Yeah.
They're really good at what they do.
And he is being very good at pulling the wool over the eyes of the general public, and he's getting them on side. And I'll tell you how much he's getting them on side. So they've been voting him every day to do the trials, right? Because they hate him. Mm-hmm. And so last night there was a public vote, and 3 celebrities have to do tonight's trial. And it's the 3 celebrities with the least votes, and he wasn't even in the bottom 3. So what's happened? He's won them over.
Yeah, he's done what he set out to do.
Yeah,
and yet again, Yet again, the great British public have let someone pull the wool over their eyes.
Absolutely.
Because
But it's the same person. He's pulled the wool over their eyes many times.
Yeah. But you know where that wool comes from? Your fucking forelock. Bah! Bah! Because that's all you are.
So, a question, John.
Yeah.
And you don't have to answer this now, but...
And I don't mean our audience, obviously.
The title of the show today, is it on the list?
The title of the show?
Kari Lake.
Yeah, it's further down.
Okay, fair enough. Let us actually move on, though, to the University of Idaho. It's actually Charlottesville, Virginia this happened, isn't it?
Right, so what's his name? Adam pulled this out the other night because remember he said breaking news, there's a school shooting going on, right? And I thought, yeah, okay, so it's America, it's a school shooting, really I'm not going to be bothered that much about it. But now I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued now.
Why?
Because all the people that were dead were friends.
Yeah.
They all stayed off campus. One of them had a birthday recently and someone had sent a message to them saying your lives are much better because you're in it. We love you and all this. And the police are not looking for anyone else in connection with this crime.
So
This is effectively a group of friends.
Something's got out of hand.
One of them's fallen out, and it's all gone to shit from there.
This isn't a random mass school shooting, then, is what you're saying. It doesn't appear to be. So we'll keep an eye on the situation because I believe is he still at large?
Well, they're not looking for anyone else. So I think it's pretty much that's it. They're not looking for anyone else, and the police said there is no concern for any other member of the public at this point in time.
Okay, so once again, we'll keep an eye on this situation. If he gets arrested, he gets apprehended, and more comes out, we will talk to you about it. Let's move on to this tweet here from GB News, who's got their little official shit tick there. It's back! It's back!
Did they buy it, though?
Well, no, if it's got official underneath it.
Oh, right, yeah, okay. So
oh yeah, so my wife had a pop at Professor Brian Cox about this earlier on.
Right, go on.
So it's bankers blame Brexit as UK loses position as Europe's top financial centre. It's been a chaotic period. No, it's what it is it's crashing the economy and then coming back with higher fucking corporation tax.
Well, bankers are always very quick to blame someone else.
Yeah.
Especially when they're in charge of the money supply.
Yeah.
And don't think the government's in charge of the money supply, because I saw someone yesterday who was incredibly naive, and they said why doesn't Rishi Sunak do this and this and this? Because we've got our own bank.
Yeah.
What bank is that?
The privately owned Bank of England.
We don't have the Bank of England.
I said the privately owned Bank of England.
Exactly. So this guy thinks the Bank of England is under the government's control.
Yeah.
He thinks banking's under government control. And newsflash, banking's not under government control anywhere.
No.
Right? Except China. Right? And even then I think you might be pushing it. You've got to watch. But it's certainly not under government control in the UK, and it's definitely not under government control in the US.
Yeah.
It's all private banking. There's nobody in control of it from government. Government doesn't have a bank. Government doesn't set anything. They don't even set the rate of inflation.
No,
they
don't.
Ben?
They don't set the rate of inflation. The Bank of England comes along and tells you what the rate of inflation is going to be.
And
they tell you how much more you're going to have to pay.
And they don't set income. Sorry, they do set income tax. They don't set interest rates, do they?
No. Bank of
That's
England.
The Bank of England.
Bank of England.
So your government doesn't do anything. So if anyone's to blame here, it's the bankers, not Brexit.
I mean, it always is, right?
Yeah. Everything comes. Well, you know, when you're dealing with people who are working with something that doesn't exist and then try and pretend to you that it does.
Yep.
And you need to pay them money that doesn't exist.
FTX.
And pay interest on the money that
FTX.
doesn't exist. Yeah. So, well, yeah. when you're dealing with people who do this day in, day out, they're divorced from reality.
I mean, when it comes,
they really are.
I mean, when it comes to this FTX thing, I mean, they had like 9 billion in BTC liabilities or something like that, or 9 billion in total liabilities. And when they were audited the other day, they held 0 BTC against BTC liabilities. 0. 0.
So where's the code? Where's all those little wallets and bitcoins or whatever, or fractions of bitcoins?
I mean,
they don't have any.
That story is deep. It is complicated. It's a web of horrible companies that move money and code all around one another. And I don't know where this story ends, except for with loads of people losing loads of money. But once again, we will keep an eye on it.
Loads of people are losing loads of money, no doubt.
Oh yeah, and speaking of people
that have lost out. Yeah. Shouldn't Moderna and Pfizer
have done this to start with?
Yeah, have done this before they started releasing it as a product.
Well, this is it's once again.
But hold on, to do that, to get long-term studies and long-term data,
you have to do the long-term trials.
Oh, you need a long-term trial, and to have a long-term trial, you need fucking years, and that's why vaccines don't normally take 4 months to get done. They normally take 7 years.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and that's all we will say about that for reasons. But hey ho. So we're moving on. We're moving on to the topic of conversation now.
On you go.
Kari Lake has lost her race to become governor of Arizona to Katie Hobbs, the woman that was, running the election, seems to have won it.
The woman that we've not seen campaigning.
Yep.
We've not seen out her bunker.
Yeah.
That hasn't appeared during the counting.
But, this does go back to, this does harken 2020, doesn't it? He put a lid on his campaigning at 11 a.m. pretty much every day, Mr. Biden did. And yet, here he comes with apparently the most votes of anyone in history. I can't say whether or not that's true. I'm just going to say apparently. Now, I'm going to go to a comment in our chat from Delivering Liberty from Sean. Hi, Sean. How you doing? He says, she said she wouldn't win. MAGA voters are crying about a known broken system that stitched up the sitting US president in 2020. What made them think it would be different now? Trump won't be POTUS again. Now, it does seem to be, once again, universal mail-in voting that seems to have hearkened and hurt the Republican here. Universal mail-in voting is something that should never have happened. They justified it because of the coup. I mean, it came along at the right time, didn't it? I must say, came along at the right time. Nothing suspicious there at all. But she has effectively lost, and she put out a tweet. That said, Arizonians know BS when they see it. She is calling BS on the results. She is saying that they cheated. Kari Lake, who backed Donald Trump's false claims of voter fraud, this is what Sky News say, in 2020, has lost her bid to become the governor of Arizona. It does seem that it took them 8 days to count those votes? 8 days to count those votes. And they have now found all of the votes that were required for Katie Hobbs to win. Now, I'm not saying there's anything untoward towards that. I'm just saying that's what happened. And it also looks like the Republican election commissioners in Maricopa County, who are supposed to be impartial, started a political action committee last year.
No, it was the Democrats.
No, they were Republicans.
Oh, they were the Republicans started a PAC.
So the Republican election commissioners in Maricopa County, who are, classic Republicans, we will call them, started a PAC, a political action committee, to stop MAGA candidates. So these people...
a PAC, for those that don't understand, a PAC is generally a lobbying group that would then lobby members and political parties
and fund
and try and sway their decisions through that argument.
So despite the fact they are Republican, Kari Lake is Republican, because Kari Lake was endorsed by Donald Trump, her own election commissioners were trying to stop her in Maricopa County. That's
And maybe they've succeeded.
maybe they have indeed, but she's calling BS. I imagine she's going to challenge this. It's going to be a continued story for.
So they're still looking like they might take the House. So we'll see what happens. It would still. I mean, we were talking about this morning because I think it was about 6 months ago that I said to you, what would happen if the Republicans take the House and then Donald Trump gets installed as Speaker?
And he is making an announcement tonight, isn't he?
So let's see what Donald says tonight. Because if Donald's not,
he's running again. I'm telling you,
he's not stupid, right? So he must be able to see that the weight of the country isn't as behind them as it used to be. But he may be blinded by ego.
I
right?
think very much so, unfortunately.
But the thing about being the Speaker has been floated by not just us, it's been floated by people in America now.
Yeah, I saw Jack Posobiec tweeting about it last week, and I was thinking, we said that.
Yeah, well, we did, but so there might be an out for him here, because rather than just not run, he might go, I'm going to run for Speaker. He might not,
because you do not have to be.
If he did that, if he ran for Speaker, right, I would have more respect for his decision there than I would do if he says he's going to run for president, because I don't think he's going to get elected as president.
I don't think he'll even make it past the
runoff, the primaries.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think Ron DeSantis may primary him unless because the smart thing,
Ron doesn't. Yeah,
the smart thing to do if Donald Trump wants any chance is to announce RDS as his running mate. Right?
Yeah. Well, that would depend on RDS accepting that.
Well, yeah. Does RDS want to be involved with the MAGA movement? Because one thing I will say about the quote-unquote MAGA movement is it's been so denigrated now. And once again, remember, the majority of people, United Kingdom, United States, whatever, right? They listen to the mainstream media. And on the mainstream media, they have been calling MAGA terrorists. They have been calling them this, that, the other.
Well, the whole January the 6th thing it's just been one long running attack on Trump and MAGA, and it's just there to discredit MAGA. That's what it was done for.
And it's worked. In the eyes of the public, it has worked. The January 6th committee, which is still sitting now, which is still doing televised trials and things like that, it is in the eyes of the public, it is down their throats, and it's it's working because the vast majority of people listen to the mainstream media. Back to our chat room. Delivering Liberty says Trump may as well not bother. Unless there is a revolution, no election he will stand, he will win. He failed to do something in 2020, and this is the consequence. They should have stopped universal mail-in voting. They should have stopped it in its tracks. And that's not because of, I think voter suppression is a good idea. I think if you're going to go to the polls, I think voter ID is a good idea. If you're a citizen of a country and you want to give a vote, especially for who's leading that country, you should be able to turn up at the poll, show your ID to prove that you are a citizen of that country or of that county or of that state, vote in person, and watch that vote be counted. Because if universal mail-in voting can come from anywhere. It can come from anywhere, and that's the problem. And now I'm not going to sit here and say fraud. What I am going to sit here and say is there were obviously far more people using the universal mail-in voting system than there should be, because mail-in voting, fine if you've got really extenuating circumstances.
Well, no, I mean, I'm going to sit here and say there were incidences when people that were not alive voted. That is completely wrong. That is fraud.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree with you, but we can't say that happened on a mass scale.
I'm not saying it happened on a mass scale, but for it to happen once or twice is sufficient to cast doubt on the entire process.
No, I agree. I do agree, and I mean, we saw a tweet from Matthew Marsden earlier on, and he tweeted out something along the lines of, this tweet is for people outside of the USA, and he said, do you think Americans' elections are rigged? And 91% of his recipients have said yes. It might even be higher now. So, this is what people are seeing, and this is what people are thinking. Now, am I going to permeate that? No, I'm going to say I don't know.
I am. I am. I mean, if we go back to our conversation with Mark Transgizi, I asked him the question, why has your country now, come down to the level of a banana republic when it comes to voting? Because it appears just as bad as any banana republic.
Well, that's certainly how it appears on the surface. What we really can't, because of YouTube's rules, go much deeper than that. Because even if you question what's gone on in Brazil, they're banning you. So you have to be very, very careful with the things you say. So I will leave it up.
But hey, this is the country for free speech, isn't it?
Well, apparently so. I will leave it up to interpretation. You look at the situation with Kari Lake, you look at the situation with Donald Trump in 2020, and you come to your own conclusion. That's all we ever want people to do on any situation. Speaking of
conclusions, what's going on here then? Right?
Looks like Vladimir has run out of money.
And why do you think he may have run out of money?
Because like we spoke about yesterday, we've got EU member states going, we don't want to give money to Ukraine anymore.
Yeah, and where did he put his money?
FTX, baby, FTX. So, is the FTX crash going to end a war?
It could have an effect on it, yeah, it could.
Yeah, well, he's saying war must end now. Ukraine's President Zelensky tells world leaders.
Yeah. I mean, one minute they're giving it, oh, we're winning, and then the FTX crash happens, and suddenly it's, we really need war to end. We need peace,
Yeah. I mean,
it's Christmas is coming, we don't want to be fighting at Christmas.
well, exactly right. And wagging the dog may well have worn itself out. That's all I can say.
It may have. And let's have a look at what mainstream media's had to say about Ukraine.
Right. So we go to the Guardian here. So this is before the war, right?
Yeah, before the war and then after.
So the Guardian said before the war, welcome to Ukraine, the most corrupt nation in Europe. After the war broke out, the fight for Ukraine is a fight for liberal ideas. So,
right, okay.
Reuters, before the war, Ukraine's neo-Nazi problem. After the war, for foreign fighters, Ukraine offers purpose, camaraderie, and a cause. So before the war, we've got CNN. No, this is Vox. A Ukrainian comedian turned president is embroiled in Trump's impeachment mess.
Oh, Trump was involved there, was he?
Post-war, CNN say Ukrainians are giving 2 lessons in democracy that Americans have forgotten.
Which is what?
I don't know.
What are those lessons, CNN?
I don't know.
Oh, is that the 2 laptops?
It's 2 laptops. So before the crisis, New Europe said Ukrainian president's rule becomes increasingly corrupt, authoritarian.
Well, what president would that be?
Well, that's probably about Zelensky, isn't it? And then after the Ukraine crisis, the Washington Post say Zelensky, the TV president turned war hero.
That's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing how quickly they turned.
Well, yeah, they rewrite history. And they do this all the time, not just in this situation, but, when we're talking about things like virology, they try to teach you things that were always true, were somehow now no longer true, right?
Yeah, I know.
They do this all the time. It's just what they do. President Biden has tweeted, "Today I met with President Xi Jinping of the People's Republic of China. We discussed our responsibility to prevent the competition between our countries from veering into conflict and finding ways to work together on shared challenges that affect the international community." Basically, he's gone to Xi and he's gone, "We don't want you to stop making our stuff."
Right, so apparently they met for 4 hours.
Oh,
okay.
That's
4 hours.
That's a long...
How did he
Biden
stay upright and awake for 4
Oh,
hours?
that's exactly what I was going to ask. I was going to say, how did Biden stay awake for 4 hours?
Right.
At least, there's no report so far of him shitting himself like he did in front of the Pope.
That's true. So, secondly, it's reported that Xi has said that he will make all possible efforts to resolve the Taiwan problem peacefully. That doesn't mean he won't attack them.
Because what that actually means is when they refuse to submit, we'll have no other choice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it doesn't, a compliant China is as dangerous as one that's an aggressive China. Because you can't see that, and this is back to culture and things like that, because you don't work the same way, you don't think the same way, and you don't have the same experience of things, and the way we work as a Westerner, pardon me, is completely different to how someone from the Far East who does business in the Far East all the time works.
Well, you're exactly right.
And there's many businessmen will tell you that. It's a completely different way of working and looking at things. And I mean, I'm not saying it's better or worse. It's just everything's different.
Well, exactly.
Everything is different.
And also, I'm just going to put myself big screen for a minute here. Listen to me, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. You can't believe a word Xi Jinping says about anything.
No, you can't. You can't. You're right, Ben.
You really, really can't. Let's move on, though, to our friend of the show and friend of you personally, Latimer Alta.
What did Latimer? Latimer has pointed out that COP27 brought us this gem from the continent where they held COP27.
Yep.
Remember?
Oh dear.
Well, we actually need to burn more fossil fuel because that will allow us to become more equal in the world.
I mean, it's true though, isn't it?
Of course, it's true.
Of course, it's true.
Because if you stop the third world from trying to develop by restricting their use of fossil fuels, you're effectively keeping them in a Stone Age.
Yeah, and it's being done by design to keep them in their place, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is what people, climate activists. I mean, I don't know if you've put Extinction Rebellion and their Barclays debacle on the list.
Yeah, if someone can't throw paint, you've got to. It's not even what you put them on the news if they can't throw paint, and you think that's someone that needs mental help.
Yeah, no, they attacked 100 branches of Barclays Bank yesterday morning. They smashed windows, they threw paint, they graffitied, and then they call it peaceful, non-violent action. But these people don't understand that what they are doing and what they are calling for would effectively end already impoverished nations. It would end them. Yeah. They would be over.
So the next slide is what got me onto this was Elon was tweeting about a successful test of multiple rocket engines in one go. Right?
Okay.
On the ground.
Yeah.
And I thought, just how much carbon comes out of a SpaceX rocket?
Oh, far off. I don't think it matters.
Well, I don't think it matters either. But anyway, so I went on Quora or whatever it's called, and it's quite interesting because when you start digging into it, the mental gymnastics that they're going through to try and say that it's not a bad thing is ridiculous.
Of course.
Because first of all, they're saying, okay, it's kerosene. The first stage is kerosene generally. And so the amount, you can't get around it. It's all freaking carbon that's coming out of that thing.
Yeah.
And it's thousands and thousands of pounds of carbon. Right?
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I'm no great believer in carbon derived climate change. I think there's another reason for it, and I think it's called what's that 3-letter word that we call the
sun.
Thing that you don't see in Scotland?
Sun.
Yeah, the sun. Yeah, I haven't seen that since I think
since you were in France.
Time I saw that was about August, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, so it's all kerosene, but then the second stage isn't kerosene. That's something. That's hydrogen and oxygen, and that's not as bad. But by the time the first stage gets off the ground,
Yeah.
It's not as bad because carbon released at ground level is much worse than carbon released at altitude.
Yeah.
Right. So they're just trying to say it's actually not as bad. But then Elon goes and tests multiple rockets.
14, wasn't it?
At ground level. Yeah, it didn't go anywhere. so he's just blown it. I mean, that's like hundreds of thousands of tons of carbon just like that in one go. Boom.
And you know what? To me,
climate change, my buttocks.
It doesn't. It means it's meaningless to me. It means nothing to me. All I care about is my, as horrible as this sounds, but I will always just simply care about my immediate family and their immediate welfare and their immediate,
Yeah.
And it's meaningless to me what Rocket Man is doing with his rockets. It doesn't bother me in any way, shape, or form. I've got absolutely no qualms or concerns. And in fact, me and my wife have been talking to or trying to talk to activists on Twitter, including Leonardo DiCaprio, and just showing them a list. Just showing them a list of all of the things that these so-called scientists have predicted that simply have not happened.
Yeah.
Peak oil in this year, the Maldives are underwater. And so these people, in my view, you can only cry wolf so many times. And what I'm wanting from all of this, from these people who are going out and shutting down motorways, I want tangible evidence. But I'm telling you now, not one of these single people has any idea what they're talking about. They're idiots. They're a cult. They are acting like a cult, and they are acting on feelings. They are acting on emotion, and it's cult-like behavior. And that's all that's going on here. And it's damaging, and it's hurting, and it's harming real people. If Rocket Man wants to go and bloody test some rockets, I don't give two shits, and neither should they. Simple as that.
Okay, right.
Governor Gavin Newsom's wife breaks down describing Harvey Weinstein's fish-like penis in court.
Now, do you remember that we had a story about Harvey Weinstein and his genital mutilation?
Yeah, we did.
And part of it was that there was a problem with his testicles because of some kind of infection.
Yeah.
And his testicles have been placed in his thighs.
Allegedly.
So when you actually read the whole story, she's kind of fishing around looking for a description that maybe doesn't quite gel with what we've learned to believe. So I'm not sure if she's actually seen said testicles or not. Well, anyway, I just had, and I know we don't operate purely on headlines, but it's just such a glorious headline that one had to put it in.
I digress. Let's move on to Sartorial Thug on Twitter, who says, "It's not a good look, is it? Still better than allowing footballers to choose their own clobber. Just imagine how much of a laughingstock we would have been." And this is England, ready for the FIFA World Cup. They're ready to go, John.
Yeah, well, I suppose this is their outfit for travelling in. You know how they always travel in suits and things. So what is that? What are they wearing? It's like Gangs of London. It's like bomber jackets.
Well, it's all come from Marks and Spencer.
I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, it's all come from Marks and Spencer, and still you won't be able to afford it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've no idea what the hell that's meant to be, and it doesn't look good.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't look good. And I'll tell you what else doesn't look good. These people not boycotting this competition. As far as I'm concerned, none of them should be going.
Yeah, they shouldn't be going.
But the problem is, once again, the mainstream media will get their way and people will watch it in record numbers on TV, screaming and cheering and giving money to this horrible, disgusting, authoritarian regime who used ethnic slaves to build their stadiums, who sexually violate
rights record.
Yeah, appalling human rights records, sexually violate, arrest and beat LGBT people, probably murder them too. We shouldn't be going there. The second it was announced for Qatar, we should have gone, nope, thank you, not going.
No. The filthy liquor, the lure is too strong.
It is, and I can tell you now, I will not be watching a single game. I will not. I will not be going into a venue that shows a game. I will not be turning on a game. There will be not one single game from that competition going before my eyes. I think the fact that it's actually been allowed to go ahead is disgusting. But that's just me. That's just me.
Well, I'm with you on this one. Right. So speaking of things not to do while drunk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's one. I would say.
One. If you are fishing while drunk.
Yeah.
And it's described as such in the article. An unidentified serpent swims by. Do not pick it up and drape it over your shoulders like a feather boa.
I mean, he's drunk.
Yeah, he is drunk, but it's a fairly big snake. He draped it round his shoulders like a feather boa, as if to show off to his 14-year-old son and friend who was with him. And then it started strangling him. It then took them 20 minutes, right, to get the snake off him. He nearly died from strangulation.
Do you know?
Now, the first question that I'm asking myself is, would the third person who's filming it have made a difference?
Well, it's actually the fourth person, actually. There's 3 people there. And he's incapacitated because he's getting strangled, right? And there's 2 people trying to get it off him. So would the other person have made a difference if he'd put the camera down and tried to help out? But then they wouldn't have got a video, would they? But I was going to say, that speaks to what happens in this world too much, doesn't it? It speaks to what happens in this world too much, in so much as when horrible, terrible, bad things happen, people now invariably take out their phone and film. That's why I'm so skeptical about a lot of things in Ukraine, by the way, because everyone's and even this, you know, in the far reaches of the world, someone's got a smartphone and is filming this snake strangling this man. I'll tell you a quick story before we move on, actually, because I know someone who's got a massive boa constrictor, yeah? She takes the fucking thing for walks, John.
No.
She takes it for walks along the seafront.
No, that's wrong.
And she does it when she's drunk.
That's just wrong.
And I keep saying to her, it's gonna fucking kill you.
People shouldn't be allowed to have those things.
No, I agree with you. And the thing is huge, and the tank that it's kept in is not, right? The tanks that these things are kept in are never huge. And still, I say to the woman, you know, you take that thing draped around your neck for walks along the seafront, one day it's just going to strangle you. It's a constrictor. It will kill you. Believe me, it's not your friend. It doesn't love you. It's a cold-blooded reptile that's looking for meat. And one day you will be that meat. Anyway, let's move on to the sexy Egyptology scholars who dress like Indiana Jones characters.
Right, so first of all, the headline caught my eye, and I thought, what's all this about then? Why are they promoting this pair, and what have they done? So apparently they've got a really good social media following now on Instagram and things like that.
Why
because
not?
This is how they dress. Now, apparently the guy who's an Egyptologist at Yale, some professor there, he's dressed like this since he was a child, basically. He always wears vintage clothing and dresses like Indiana Jones or whatever. And they wear jodhpurs and pith helmets and all this when they go prospecting in Egypt. And people call them out for it because they're dressing like colonialists and they think that's wrong, right?
Dress how you bloody well want.
You know what? I don't have a beef with that. But because I'm like, where's the story here? And it's like, it's a kind of hodgepodge story. It's quite detailed. So it turns out he was a professor, and she was an undergraduate, and then he had an affair with her while she was an undergraduate.
This is starting to sound like Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I know. And then he lost his job because he had an affair with an undergraduate student, right? Mm-hmm. And then they got married after his wife divorced him, right? And then she started dressing like this because of him. Yeah. And then they kept doing their Egyptology, and now she then had a job at Yale. Now she's left her job at Yale, and he's back at Yale teaching.
Why not?
And they're having a great time, and I'm like, good luck to them.
I mean,
why mock them for their clothing?
The head of drama at my school married one of his students.
Okay, I'm not going to that. I quite like this retro dressing. Maybe I should take this up as some kind of affection in my later years.
Please don't.
Why?
Because I'll have to take the
could-
piss out of you all the time.
Yeah, but that would be fine because that would be a good gag that'd be a gag for the show. I mean, I'm prepared to do that. I mean, look, let's face it, you've put a lot out. You've grown your hair to a ridiculous length.
Mm-hmm.
You've grown some stupid moustaches and facial hair.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, you've put yourself out there. Maybe I should too.
Do you know what? If you turn up dressed like that, we won't be able to talk about news for the entire show because I'll be calling you a tit.
Okay.
In other words, let's do it.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, let's do it. Right, let's move on.
We've got 2 left.
We've got 2 left. World Animal Protection, US.
It's just the way they've phrased this. I'm just going to mock the headline here. I'm just mocking the headline because of the way it's been phrased. While I do not condone the misuse of elephants in any form, right? I don't, right? And I'm appalled by any poor treatment of animals.
Yeah,
I've got to mock the headline because the elephant entertainment industry is cruel.
I mean, I've never heard of the elephant entertainment industry. I'm not going to lie.
It just sounds like elephant porn.
Oh dear.
Doesn't it?
No,
That's exactly what it sounds like.
My mind hadn't gone there, but okay. Okay.
Well, you've heard of the adult entertainment industry.
Yeah,
well, this is the elephant entertainment industry. It just sounds like the elephant version of porn.
Press the "That's true" button because you're right.
That's true.
There you go. There you go, John. I've gone vintage for you. I've got a vintage bellhop hat on.
Right, right. So the last story again from the New York Post, right?
Yeah. Why is this news?
It must have been a slow day.
It must have been a very, very slow day. Why is this news?
Apparently I don't know. So he's been, and he's not even. It's not even as if he's taking his trash into the school.
Yeah.
I think why it's news is because he's getting his trash picked up by the service that picks up the school's trash.
Yeah, so he's taking the trash from the building where he lives and basically fly tipping, right?
Yeah, well, he's not fly tipping. What he's doing is he's getting it. He's putting it with all the school trash, and it's all getting taken away. So he's not paying for trash removal, and he's using the school to.
Do you know what? I
trash.
think that's smart. I think that's a loophole. I think all power to you if you can do this.
And I can't understand why they think this is newsworthy.
And on that, John, if you have enjoyed this little show on John's channel today, then please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/Chasing Dissent, or indeed Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/Chasing Dissent to help keep the lights on. It is a donation. It's a donation service, and only donate if you think that you can, because we know times are tough at the moment. The best thing you can do for us right now to help this channel: subscribe, share, like, get some good algorithmic juice going for these videos, and help the channel grow, right? And also go and subscribe over on the other channel, of course, 100 Acre Swamp. If Adam's in the chat, I don't know if he is, he could put the Discord link in there. And with that, I am done spieling.
Excellent. And thank you, Chrissy, for being on the same wavelength when it comes to the elephant entertainment industry.
And there's the Discord. Thank you indeed, Adam. Go and join that. That's free. And you can sponsor my balls.
Speaking of elephant entertainment industry,
you can sponsor a ball. You can sponsor my balls. The balls have arrived. Anytime you sponsor a ball, which you can do via the Discord service, it's a little donation. You can give your name, a message. I'll put it on the ball. It will go on the tree of representation.
The tree of representation
will be here over the Christmas season. John, I think you need to make a Christmas outro as well.
Yeah. Well, I'll knock one out because.
You're going to knock one out. We're talking about the adult entertainment industry. You're going to knock one out. You rude man.
But I'll do it offline.
Right, that's worth a like.
With that, I'd like to thank you one and all for attending this episode 160 of Chasing Dissent Live. It's been great for you.
You.
That's all we've got time for this evening, so it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him. Good night. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Stop playing with my bust!
Good night, everybody.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy.
You're a what?
A pianist!
Mwah! Good night, everybody.
You have been a delightful audience to talk. Good night. Thank you.
Oh, my bottom hurts. Mwah! Good night, everybody.
Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob.
Oh, I did love that hamster so. I took it into bed with me every night, you know.
Good night, everybody.
I think, ladies and gentlemen, I think I have to go now. I've been standing here for a very long time. I think the end of the show must have come and gone.
There you go. That's our solar system. You forgot Uranus. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for listening. You've been very nice to work to.
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.